Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Good day to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, following us. This is Leadership Podcast, and this is Money Radio. Today we're discussing tourism, and the topic we're discussing is how sports can drive growth in Nigerian tourism sector. To discuss that topic with me on my right is Mr. Isaac Aimori.
Yeah, my pleasure to be here again. Yes.
Yeah, and to my left here is Jeremiah Emerson.
Thanks for having me, sir.
Yes. The issue of sports tourism, of course, where sports events are carried out or are played, where sports events take place, people who love those sports come there. And when they come there, they spend money, they enjoy the places, they bring life to those places. And that is sports tourism. Nigeria does have potential at the state level, at the local government level, in fact, the state level and the national level. So the people here with me are you are in good company. All of you following us that we will discuss this issue and trash it. So Isaac, how can sports tourism bring growth?
Yes, sports tourism is actually one of the fastest, if not the fastest, growing sector in tourism industry. All those movements that people do, travels to go and see a World Cup event, lawn tennis, table tennis, just name it. All those movements, those trips that people do, okay, all amount to sports tourism. And like you rightly said, when people travel, they either go by air, or they go by road, or they do, boats, or it depends on the proximity to where the event is taking place. So that is where the spending starts. So they get to this event, they lodge in hotels, they spend on food, they shop, they even buy tickets, to watch these events. Okay, so it's actually a huge area, a huge industry, sub industry in the global tourism industry. So for a country like Nigeria, especially now that we are looking for how to diversify the economy, and if you ask sports analysts, those who are actually following sports, in Nigeria, they will tell you that the major challenge we've had has been the involvement of government in sports, because what we have seen over the years in Nigeria is a situation where government determines the pace of sports development, which shouldn't be, because there are investors in that industry, in that sector, who do not want government involvement. They have their own calendar.
I will come back to you. There's so much you are going to give us in that area. So we talk about sports tourism. Of course, Nigeria over the past, as far as I can remember, the last time we hosted African Nations Cup was around 2002, if I'm not making a mistake. 2002, 2004. That was around there. That was the last time we had such a. But I remember also in 1999 there was the World Youth Championship. Yeah, people from the world.
We also had the National Sports Festival.
Yes, but I want us to look at this thing first of all from the local government level and then the state level. How many people attend sports events, or what sports events do we have to attract crowds of people that will bring out the money for transportation, as you mentioned, transportation, food, accommodation, nutrition, you name it.
Yeah.
So what sports events do we have that can drive attraction?
Okay. Yes, we have a couple of sports events like the marathon that happens in I don't know if it's yearly in Lagos, and we also have that also in a joke called the Okwepe Marathon.
Yeah.
You know, so those are some of the and you
This
have
Lagos Marathon is an international
yes,
event.
it is as well as the Okwepe.
All right.
It's a mountain race.
Yes.
Yeah.
And some other ones, and it attracts people coming in from.
How much are these events? How much publicity are they giving?
As I mean, for me to get to know about it, it means even though the publicity isn't that much, but you know, it's something
But
that
at the sports, the state level, what what events do we have that?
States have to become, very innovative, very
Yes.
creative. There are no rules that say that you cannot organize sporting events. Okay.
Yes.
In fact, what we've had, the pattern we've had over the years, is a situation where a state will start something, then other stakeholders will now key into it. Okay. So even at the local government level, okay, local government can initiate, call it award football, soccer tournament, for example.
So you're going to have to give us give government some advice, because look, let's start. Let's give it this perspective. Um, During, say, from the end of May to the end of August in Nigeria,
Yeah.
men, many men
Mm.
are bored. I'll tell you why.
Can you tell me why? Interesting.
The EPL is on break.
Okay.
That is the English Premier League. Or in fact, the European leagues,
Yeah.
they are on break, and so as a result of that, people are bored. To they have nothing to watch during weekends.
Okay.
Seeing the value of because if you like it or not, because of these events, the likes of DSTV, that is multiple choice,
Yeah.
they make money.
Of course. Well, that's how.
Now, I'm coming. Because of that, Nigeria Football League started sourcing sponsorship. Sometime I remember this man Obaseki, Oyiki Obaseki. Yeah, he started sourcing. Yeah, they got Globacom, they got MTN at a time, with the hope of popularizing these sports events. But the thing seems to have failed.
The lacuna still is government.
Okay,
Because the private sector is here to have the space that they need.
so what
Okay.
space do they need?
They do not want government, involvement. That is the truth. That is how sports is managed, globally. The EPL you're talking about. It's not, the government. It's not the UK, government, for example. You see stadia that are built by clubs. Okay?
Yes.
That is how this industry can grow.
Okay, so
And
when
I
you
must
talk about
mention
government, are you talking about state governments?
federal government.
Okay, federal government.
Yes. For example, I must say this, that sport is more than a religion in some parts of the world.
Of course.
You get
You
it?
know,
So the passion is there, the interest is there. It's an industry that's just waiting to be taken. You get it? So, we need very little or no involvement at all of government, so that the private sector, can bring in the money, organize events, make their money, invest in youth development, build facilities, and bring the best in class equipment. Okay. Then there's also another dimension to it. It's not just about money. Okay. There's also human development.
okay.
You get it. So sports is a socio-economic, activity. You get it. We have banditry now that we are contending with in Nigeria, for example. And I tell you, when we have, let's say, the short cup event, even the bandits will look forward to go and watch, the tournament.
Yes.
That's to tell you how passionate we are about it. So the government can also use it, to harness or harvest this talent, and put them to better use than just allowing them to, to be idle and take to whatever vice, that is available. Okay. So that is that point I need to make.
You mentioned the structure, or should I say infrastructure? Some of these our sports facilities are dilapidated. They are not up to standard. They are not up to world standard. I'm talking about the pitch.
Yeah.
Take for example,
Some are dilapidated because they are largely owned by government.
I want to bring your attention to recently the Aisha Buhari sports.
Yeah. Female sports tournament. Yes.
That tournament.
Yes.
When people saw the stadium, I watched the matches and I watched the matches with people. I'm talking about colleagues. And while watching those matches, they were giving kudos to the state government who has taken over that stadium and how they have.
No, not the state government actually. One individual.
You mean
Yes, one individual.
who is that?
Was behind.
Okay, don't call names.
Yeah, yeah. Was actually the one who refurbished that stadium. I read it in the paper. People were, Lawal, the former Super Eagles coach, Austin Eguavoin, they were praising him, for that effort. Okay, so that's to tell you how much interest, that people have for sports. It's just for government to say, okay, guys, do it the way this thing is done abroad, because we cannot rely on your budgets. Okay,
yes,
to run sports. And the what red tape also does, the corruption, the layers of interest you have in the ministries, and all that. Okay, soccer, for example, has taken a life of its own in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
FIFA is the umbrella body, the chief regulator, of that sport. Okay, so government just needs to step aside so that the investors can do their thing.
A level playing field.
Yes, even the facilities we are talking about, they should maybe auction them or go into PPP, public-private partnership arrangement. Yeah, with businessmen.
Somehow we were talking not long ago about the National Theatre. That arrangement seems to be working. That public-private partnership seems to be working. Just the scenery and the coverage. Look, there is among the football leagues in Europe, there is a particular one that is the most popular. But in terms of quality football, in my opinion, that is not the most popular. But because of coverage, because of
it's a matter of opinion. Other people will disagree with you.
No, of course.
I think we have the guests that are supposed to join us, right? You see, join us now.
So the infrastructure, just the playing pitch. If it, just when you go to a place where, as I've heard people talk about how the place is taken care of. I'm talking about sweeping, basic sanitation that it's lacking in those places. When you go to the restrooms, those places are
because government business, so it's not mass business.
Yes.
Yeah. So you would agree with me that if one investor had gone to the bank to take a loan to put up such a facility, of course he will not.
Look at the Abuja Stadium here.
Yes,
that place has become a place for breeding animals.
Yes. Yeah. So that is it. So we just need to create the events, create the sporting events. It can be inter-ward, senatorial district, competition.
Suppose we even have state leagues.
Yes,
state leagues. That will even my state is winning. That may even get people interested. And depending on coverage, those things may be
school sports. We used to have school sports in those
institutions.
Yes, we used to have school sports. Headmasters Cup, and all the while we're growing up, we had all those arrangements, those events.
Okay, gentlemen, let's take a break. When we come back, we will talk about other facilities that need to be put in place and the potential for revenue generation at these post-park facilities. Please stay with us. We'll be back.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it now is my very special pleasure and privilege to ask His Royal Majesty, the Sultan of Sokoto, the chairman or chairperson of the leadership group, to come forward and join me and hold on to one bit of this cloth so that we can jointly unveil the bigger, better, deeper level.
Welcome back to all of you out there in Nigeria and in the diaspora. We're talking about how sporting events can generate revenue, uh, sporting tourism, sports tourism. So let's look at some other aspects. We listeners, we may get a guest, a sports analyst, to the main judge later on the show. But before then, let's discuss one or two things. We look at the infrastructure. Um, if you look at the stadium we just talked about before we went on break, for example, it's not just those facilities that need to be touched, but sometimes people look at how much traffic, the stress of going to attend those events, and talking about that kind of stress, we talk about traffic. Take, for example, those stadiums we have in places like Lagos, where you get there to park your car, and then after that, getting a vehicle to get back home. Talking about crowds like all of those things, I think need to be put in the right places when uh, planning during the planning stages where we want to put up those structures. We need to put those kind of things into the plan so that the issue becomes less cumbersome when we tend to attend those sporting events. Uh, your take. But before we come, let's invite our guest. His name is Udeme George. Uh, you're welcome, Udeme.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good to be around here. I've enjoyed the discussion so far. Interesting discussion going on here, actually. Has to do with sport and tourism. It's a massive revenue generation of system, but Nigeria, if you ask me, I think we are yet to tap into that. Maybe we don't know, or we know and we deliberately, or we don't have people who understand how it works. In other countries, we've seen, of course, that generating millions of dollars for countries around the world. For Nigeria, the story is different, actually. But good to be here, actually.
Hello, Udeme.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. You're loud and clear. So, Udeme, we're talking about the potential. Of course, happily you have touched on that issue at your introduction stage. So, what are the potential out there, and what can I? One of our analysts says the government needs to um, divest itself of the interest of sports and leave it to the private sector. What's your take? And if it's the private sector that should drive this potential, what does the private sector need to do, and what are the financial potential in uh, sports tourism for Nigeria?
Yeah, great question. But I think the first thing we need to ask if the government is willing to let the private sector handle it, because we know very well it is no doubt that if you of course allow the private sector to handle it, they can do better compared to the government, because we've seen, just like I think your guest in the building, they also rightly mentioned, and you talked about the Abuja National Stadium that's becoming a place for grazing. I was there a couple of days ago, and apart from the ministry working on the playing pitch of the Abuja, the MKO Abiola Stadium, apart from the ministry working on the playing pitch of the national stadium, The other environment around the national stadium is an eyesore. There are grasses everywhere. It's not being taken care of. Facilities in the stadium are not taken care of. And that's because, of course, it is in the hands of the government. A couple of years ago, we even had the government said they want to, of course, to give it out, sell it out, because the cost of maintaining the stadium was huge on the government. And you can't really force them because if you fail to plan, then you're planning to fail. Because before putting on such an edifice, you should have known the cost of maintaining such an edifice. If you know you were not able to maintain such an edifice, so why put it out? Why put it up in the first place? There's no need of putting it up in the first place if you know you cannot maintain it. It doesn't make any economic sense. So for Nigeria, I think the best thing to do, hand it over to the private sector in terms of sport management in Nigeria. But will they want to do that now? For example, look at the sport ministry. It is all politicized. You appoint a sport minister and who knows nothing about how to run sports in the country. I'm not talking about the current sport minister. I'm just giving an example. That's what happened in political appointments. We do not put a square peg in the holes the way it should be. We're just putting people who feel, oh, he wants to be there, or he did something to the government. He was good in terms of campaign. Let's reward him with that ministry, and that doesn't help, of course, development of sports in Nigeria. So that's been a problem. But for me, you also rightly mentioned, for example, the Aisha Boy Cup that just ended. It was interesting to watch. That was privately organized, actually, of course, by the Nigeria Football Federation, tagged, of course, by the name of the first lady of the country. It was properly organized. We saw the beauty in it as well. But on the other ground as well, you also look at our league in Nigeria. Is it well organized? Do we have sponsors? Is there money? I must tell you that, like for the EPL you also mentioned, generates a good number of the GDP for the UK government. It is not a joke. The EPL is generating massive money for the UK government. They don't joke with it at all. So why don't we have such? Our MPFL is on break now, and we don't know when it is going to start. Reasons why we don't know is because the organizers do not have money. They don't have money to kickstart the league. That's the truth. Because they're running out of cash. They don't have sponsors. And that's a serious business. And I'll also let you know that sport tourism is one of the largest and fastest growing segments when it comes to travel, of course, and tourism industry in the world. But are we keen into that? We're not doing that. People don't travel to watch MPFL games because they feel it's not also safe. The quality of games are not good enough. The games are not on TV. They're not excited about it. People travel from Nigeria to go watch the EPL in the UK. They travel to go watch the Spanish La Liga in Spain. And you know what that means to the country when you have such travel. But do we have that in Nigeria, even in the local setting? How many of us travel from our different states to watch MPFL games in different states? We don't do that because it's not well organized. So we're getting it all wrong until we put our legs down and, of course, know exactly what it can generate. Then we can put our heads together and do it. But for now, it's a sad tale in Nigeria. It's just like you refer to other segments, other sectors in the country that is not working well. Sports is also one of them that is not working well. It's a money spinning sector. It spins money more than the oil sector. But we don't see it that way. We don't feel it's something. I'll also give you an example. When Buhari was, of course, campaigning for his first election in 2015, in his manifesto, there was no place for sport in Nigeria. That's a fact. I didn't hear anything like that. Even in second term campaign, there was nothing as well, no place for sports. So it is just a mouth service. We're not giving attention, and we're not going to get it right because we don't know the value of what sport tourism or what sport does to the country.
All right. But in the meantime, how can we get the private sector to do more, even with government involvement? Because, like you rightly said, we don't see this government, divesting its interest from the sector anytime soon. So how do we get around government can we have a policy, for example, that would make companies to invest in the sector through their corporate social responsibility budget or something? They have votes. Virtually, the big companies actually have budgets for CSR, knowing that if you put some money down, for sports activity, for sporting activities, you'll be able to take a lot of our youths, most of those that are into banditry now, into very socially approved, practices like sports. Can we have your thoughts on that?
Okay. Yeah. To start with, who's going to direct the policy? Is it the same government that doesn't believe in what sports can do to a country? Look at the benefit of what, like for example, in sport tourism. Let's say you're hosting a tournament in Abia State. It will create temporary employment for the youth of that city. The economic level of that city will also increase. It will generate more income for that city. I'll give you a good example. Even though it's not sport, look at what the burial of Obi Kubana's mother did to Oba. Yeah. Oba became talk of town. It became talk of town. Now let me go to what you said. The question you asked. Accountability is a problem in Nigeria, and especially in sports. If I give you 1 naira to invest in sports, can you show me the dividends of that 1 naira you invested? Can you sit back after 1 year and tell me, okay, Mr. Investor, you invested one naira. This is exactly what we're able to achieve with your 1 naira. We'll achieve X, Y, Z with your 1 naira. Then investor will be the same. Oh, you did a great job.
That is still because we still have government, coming in. That's because government is still looming very large in the sector. Hello, Dema, are you still there?
Yeah, I didn't hear your last question.
Yeah, I said I think that's because government is still looming very large in that sector. Because if government stays away, then we'll be able to hold people accountable. Okay? Because some of the money that the sector receives now, sometimes they actually give the money to maybe the ministry, government officials or something.
Yeah, I've always been. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I've always been an advocate of governments handsing off when it comes to sports in Nigeria. But another question is, how independent are the sport federations or sports ministries? How independent can they be if government does not have a hand in what they're doing? How independent can they be? For example, you've also heard, of course, the federation that is in charge of football in Nigeria said they're trying to be independent. They're 90% independent, but they still run to government asking for funds. If they don't have funds, they run to the government. But if the government completely takes its hands off, how can you survive it? And now it goes back to the accountability. If we give you 1 naira, utilize the 1 naira we gave you, so it will generate more money for you. So over time, it is not a day's job. It is not something you do in 1 year. Over time, it's a process. When you have this money coming in over and over again, a few years ago, we used to have sponsors like the Glow. We have DSTV sponsoring Nigerian League, Super Sports, but now we don't have that anymore. So where has all of that gone? Because we did not manage it well. By now, the LMC will not be waiting for money, maybe from the government, to start the league, because they would have been self-sufficient. But we didn't manage all of that well. So can we start now so that in the next 5-10 years we can beat our chest and say, okay, government, please take your hands off sport management in Nigeria. Let's handle it ourselves. And then give you money, not taken from the government now. The government will be very excited when you give them money, not taking from them. But now we are taking from the government, still investing in sports, and there is no return to the government.
Yeah. So who leads that campaign, man? Who leads that campaign now? The campaign for government to hands off, so that the private sector, could lead. Who leads that campaign?
I think we need to call on ex-internationals, of course, athletes, all of them who've done the country proud, who have name, who when they speak, the government listens, the country listens. But if you look at them, they have been nonchalant about it. They don't care about what happens in the sector when it comes to sports. They don't care.
All right.
Instead, they are very
Thank
much
you.
interested in sport betting.
We are running out of time.
Mm.
We'll take that. All the internationals, ex-internationals, they should come together, form a coalition, and lead this campaign.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
You're welcome.
We appreciate your time and your contribution. Thanks,
Thank you.
Isaac.
My pleasure.
Thank you very
Always.
much.
I have been your host, Case Hammond. Thanks to our producers also, and most especially thanks to you, our listeners. Please be with us for the next edition of Money Radio. We promise you another bumper edition. Stay blessed.